What is going on? James from Act Audio, and today we are going to talk about how many watts is good for a motorcycle. Now, this is my opinion, okay? So we do a lot of bikes here. We have a few brands that we prefer. I have two bikes. One is Hertz, one is Cicada. How many watts is good for a bike? So before we get into that, we're going to discuss difference in watts, right? So recently, this is a good story. Recently, I had a customer come to me and he said, we did a system on his bike. We did the Hertz SP 4.900, which is it's a great amp. He had someone the day before he picked it up from us tell him that they had 3,000 watts on their DS18 speakers. We don't know what the amp was. And the guy was like, it wasn't that loud. He couldn't barely hear it, but it just wasn't that loud. So when he walked through the door, the first thing he asked me was, how many watts is my system? And I said 900. And he went, oh boy, and he told me the story that the guy had 3,000 watts. The big factor is not all watts are the same. There's the thing called RMS or norm, and then there's max, right? So I don't have a really great example here, but my best example is this one amp. It says 2,000 watts on the side, and it's really only 500. So my next best example that I have on me right now is this amp here. It says 500 watts peak power. But right on that same box, so here, 500 watts peak. So let's look at the side. What does it say? I don't hope this is straight for you guys. I think it is. RMS power, 150 by 1, 250 by 1 at 2 ohms. Nowhere here does it say anything that says 500. So big difference. And when you get into the really low-cost companies, I'm not going to say their names, but they really exploit their numbers. So they're talking, they'll say 3,000 watts, but it's really 1,000 watts, right? That's a big difference. So when you're shopping for amps, shop RMS power across the board, because then you're getting true power that's apples for apples. But if you're ever in question, you can look at the fuse on the side of an amp. So this amp here is a 500 RMS amp, and it has two 40 amp fuses in the side of it. If you do the math, 40 times 14, that would be 400, 660, right? But then there's a thing called efficiency, because the amp is not 100% efficient, which is usually, I don't know, I'm not actually sure how it works anymore, but 80% is what I was always told on your lower end stuff. So when you do that math, 660, if I did it right, I'm doing this all in my head, at 80%, 80, 160, 320, 400, 480 watts. At 600, 660. So you're talking slightly over 500 watts of power on that amp with the 240 amp fuses. So if you're ever in question because the amp doesn't say it or you're not sure, look at the fuses on the side, or in the manual, it'll tell you what the internal fusing is. And then that fusing is the max power it can pull, and the max power times the voltage of the bike equals your maximum wattage output with zero efficiency. And all amps heat up, and so no one has zero efficiency. 80% is a good rule of thumb. So get to the video, the concept here, now that we got all that out of the way. I personally found whenever I used to do the Rockford 50 by 4 RMS amps, our customers would come back unhappy. It just wasn't quite loud enough. Maybe they were happy here, but once they got going down the highway, it wasn't enough. I found at 80, was really the sweet spot where you really started to hear it loud and clear. And then above that is just overkill. So if you're looking to just hear it while riding, I think 80 is a good number. If you want more, then go bigger. But that's my opinion and what I found dealing with customers. Whenever we did the 50 by 4s, most of our customers came back and wanted more. Either way, thanks for watching. Any question on this, hit me up. I'm trying to summarize it the best I can. I hope it made sense. If it didn't, ask me questions. Click like, subscribe. Help me out and support my business. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.